And welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I'm your host, Demo, and this is 10 commanders that I just don't see anymore. And I'm doing this video sort of in response to my video of 10 cards I don't see in Commander anymore. You know, I sort of did that video on a whim because I just seem to be coming across all these cards that I was like, man, like 5 years ago, I saw that card everywhere and now I never see it anymore. And when it comes to Commanders, I could have made this video 20 easily. I kept it to 10. Honorable mentions, though, are basically going to be Omnath and Uriel because those are the ones that I mentioned in my 10 cards I don't see anymore, right? In that video, I just mentioned a couple commanders that I just hadn't seen in forever. And again, these are commanders that when I first started playing, geez, I guess about 6 years ago now, they were everywhere. And now I never see them. And we know why. I mean, we know what the reason is. The reason is because there's been like 1,000 commanders printed for the format in the last couple of years. And so they've been buried. We know. And I realize that people probably have those decks still. People probably still have their Omnath deck. People probably still have Uriel decks. There's a lot of people that commented on that video that said that they still have an Omnath deck. They just don't really play it anymore. I think Omnath, you know, got buried by Lord Windgrace as a lands commander. That's when you really saw Omnath sort of start to disappear, was after Lord Windgrace came out, because he sort of took over as the go-to lands commander. Whatever the reason may be, these were commanders that were absolutely dominant in the format when I first started playing, and I don't see them hardly ever. So starting out at number 10, Mizzix of the Ismagus. And I know there's probably going to be a lot of people who be like, hey, I have that deck. Okay, do you play it? Because I haven't seen a Mizzix deck in it. Maybe I've seen one Mizzix deck in the last 2 years. I mean, dead serious. And it's a great commander. It's just because there's been so much lately. I mean, if you just look at the Izzet decks, Mizzix used to be the #1 commander in Izzet. Now on EDH Rec, it's number 5. Obviously, Niv Mizzet Perron completely stomped Mizzix into the ground when it came to, you know, an Izzet Spellslinger. If you're just doing an Izzet Spellslinger deck, Niv Mizzet is just way better. He's so much more powerful. Yeah, I mean, maybe not. I know people out there with Mizzix decks probably won't like me saying that it's better. I think here, though, it's definitely the case that Niv Mizzet is just straight up better than Mizzix, if you're doing that kind of thing. I mean, we got Jorah, super popular, Locust God, Brutaclad, all have trumped Mizzix. And there is the recency bias, right? There's the, it's a new commander, so I want to play with it. That definitely comes into it as well. But mostly I think it's just power level. You know, there's just been a lot more powerful cards of late. Coming in at number 9, Shroom the Hegemon. And again, this was another one that was super popular. I think it was 3rd in Esper colors behind Zur and Allora. This one I haven't seen in, for sure I haven't seen it in 2 years, maybe longer. It used to be really popular. It was sort of combo-y. There was a couple of different combos you could do with it. It was one of those commanders that was sort of feared. Like you'd see it in the command zone, you'd be like, oh, he's going to combo off, right? Because that's just the way people built that deck. It has really been buried, okay? Again, on EDH Rec, just for the Esper commanders, it is 9th. There is 8 Esper commanders more popular than Shroom. I used to play online and I would see it probably every day. Like I'd play maybe 3 or 4 games and I'd see it in a game almost every day, probably. It was really popular, just completely has disappeared. Coming in at number 8, Alicia, who smiles at death. And again, I know people are going to say, hey, I got an Alicia deck. I play it all the time. Okay. I mean, I don't see it anymore. Never. I never see Alicia decks. It is still the 5th most popular commander in Mardu. Was the most popular Mardu commander for a long time. Got trumped by Edgar Markov. Obviously, when Edgar Markov came out, he just skyrocketed in popularity. Queen Marchesa is more popular now. Sir Gwyn is even more popular than Alicia now. You know, more than popularity level, for me, this is commanders that I just don't see anymore. I never see Alicia decks. Again, it's been years since I've seen an Alicia deck out in the wild. Just completely disappeared. I'm sure there's lots of people that still have the deck. It's probably collecting dust somewhere, right? For me, I just never see it. Coming in at number 7, and this one really surprised me when I was making this list, Anamar Soul of Elements. And yes, Anamar Soul of Elements is still a popular commander. It is still the #1 teamer commander. Very close. Calamax is right on its tail. It is just a really easy build around because it just reduces your creature spells. However, I just never see it. And again, I think a lot of people probably have Anamar decks. I just don't see it myself. Personally, I haven't played against an Anamar deck. Again, maybe once in the last year I've played against an Anamar deck. And for a guy who plays probably, I don't know, 1,000 games a year, that's not a lot, right? And again, it's volume level. I get it. The amount of commanders in the format has probably doubled in the last 2 years. I'm not even kidding. Like I probably could do some stats on it and actually figure out, but the ridiculous increase in legendary creatures in the format have just made these commanders that are really, really good sort of fall off a little bit. Coming in at number 6, Brea. Again, Brea is a commander that was everywhere when I first started playing. I guess it would have been right after I first started playing. Those 4-color commanders, they were all everywhere. I could put all of the 4-color commanders on this list. Atrax is still really popular, obviously, and it always will be because that ability is so versatile. The other ones like KNT, Yidris, all of them, they were super popular because there wasn't any 4-color legendary commanders before. So when these came out in Commander 2016, they were everywhere. People were all over them and they were really powerful. So they were everywhere, and they've except for Atraxa, the other ones have really, really fallen off. Still really powerful. Brea is still really powerful, still really good. Haven't seen a Brea deck in a long time. Again, like Shroom, it was sort of a combo-y commander that people really didn't love playing against. When I first discovered EDH Rec, and I actually saw sort of what was the popularity of commanders, Trax was number 1, Marin was number 2, and Brea was number 3. Brea was the number 3 commander in the entire format for a while. And, I really don't see her much anymore. Again, I'm sure there's lots of people that have decks still with her. I just don't ever see them. Coming in at number 5, Rune of the Hidden Realm. And this one's really fallen off, okay? This one was probably second behind Derevi. I think Derevi was the most popular Bant commander for a long time. Rune was number 2. Very popular in the format. It was an easy build around. People liked it. It was fun. ETB decks are fun. I like ETB decks. Again, now it's 6th in Bant commanders behind Chulane, Arcades, the Strategist, Tuvasa, the Sunlit. Derevi's there. Estrid is ahead of it, right? I think it's a little stale, maybe. That's why people sort of lost interest in it. The ETB strategy in general is very popular, so there's a lot of different commanders you can go with it. Again, used to be a commander that I would see very regularly, almost on a daily basis when I first started playing. Now it's fallen off quite a bit. It's rank 108 on EDH Rec. Coming in at number 4, and again, now we're getting to the ones that for me have just completely vanished and I never see them anymore. Mael the Anima, another deck that I used to see all the time when I first started playing Commander for years. I don't mean like I started playing Commander and I see it and then it vanishes. For like the first couple of years I started playing, and the explanation here is obvious. If you just look at the Naya commanders, Gishath obviously is number 1 by a mile. Atla is right behind. Gared, you got Marisi, which is really popular. That one's actually kind of surprising for me. I'm actually surprised how popular Marisi is. I made a Marisi deck and it didn't last long because people do not like having their creatures goaded. So I don't know. I guess people like it. And then Rin and Seri, and then Zakama, and then Mael. It's way down there. It's under 1,000 decks. Again, used to be in the top 10 in the entire format for a long time. Now it's rank 168. And again, probably just got buried by a lot of better Naya commanders. Still a really great commander. It's kind of funny. I think a lot of these like Mael was another one that people really feared. You'd show up to a table and people would be like, don't let him use the ability, don't let her tap or else we're done for. And now I think it's at a point where you could probably show up at a table with a Mael deck and people would be like, they probably wouldn't think much of it, right? It was a very feared commander that now maybe not so much. And maybe this is a good thing, right? Again, Derevi is another one that you just couldn't show up to a table with a Derevi deck or everyone assumed you were playing stacks. And I always wanted to make a really fun, interesting Derevi deck. And I couldn't do it because everyone just assumed I was playing stacks. So maybe this is a good thing. Maybe now some of these commanders that, you just couldn't touch unless you wanted to be the arch enemy in a game. Now maybe we can go back, like all of us guys that have been playing for quite a while can go back and start making these decks maybe. So maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Coming in at number 3, another Esper commander, Allora, Ageless Ascetic. And man, this is one that, again, I saw it like every day. I would see it. I would see it almost in every game. I don't know, a lot. And the reason why is because you could just play a good stuff Esper control deck. And Allora is such a great commander because he has that ability where he just gains you life from the command zone. So you never had to cast him. In fact, of all the Allora decks I've played against, which is like 1,000, I don't know, a lot. I've played against a lot of Allora decks. I've probably seen Allora actually cast maybe 2 or 3 times. Almost always he's just left in the command zone because you're just playing an Esper control deck or some sort of pillow fort deck or a good stuff deck, and it doesn't matter what your commander is. So why not have a commander that's just going to gain you life every turn and just sit there because you're not going to cast your commander anyway. That's why Allora was so popular in the format for so long, because he was just the commander that I'm going to play because I don't really care what my commander is because I'm playing a theme that has nothing to do with it. And again, he was probably, I think he was 4 in the format behind Atraxa, Marin, Brea. I think he was number 4 for a long time. So popular. Again, because he's just a commander. You can just let him sit there and he'll gain you life. So he works with so many strategies, right? That's probably the power level there. I really don't think I saw too many people playing an actual life gain deck with him, which is what he's intended for, right? Coming in at number 2, Sadisi, Brood Tyrant. And I know there's going to be a couple of people there's probably going to be a lot of people that are going to tell me that they have a Sadisi deck and they love it. I've already had a few people talk to them in the comments about, oh, this would be great in my Sadisi deck. I think I just talked about Wood Sage and how that would be great in a Sadisi deck. And a guy said, yeah, I already have it in there. It's a great inclusion. Sadisi was, for everyone who doesn't know, and it's funny, when I talked about my decks, I did my personal deck decks, I talked about how I didn't have a Sultai deck for the longest time because Sadisi was the number 1 Sultai commander by a mile. Okay, by a mile. It was one of the most popular. I think it was top 10 in the format for sure. Sultai are popular colors, right? So everyone wanted a Sultai deck, and the only options you had, right? You had Sadisi, that was number 1. The Mimeoplasm was number 2, and they were both really, really popular. And then Damia, Sage of Stone was number 3. So those are the big 3. Those are the 3 popular ones. I saw all of them a lot and don't see hardly any of them anymore. So I guess I could just put Sultai Commander for this. But there really wasn't a lot of options. So those ones got used a lot, and especially Sadisi. And again, Sadisi was a deck that was feared. People almost didn't want to play against it in a casual game. I never understood why. I honestly didn't think Sadisi was that good. Yeah, you can create lots of 2/2 zombie tokens. Okay. I say the same thing about Field of the Dead. I just think, okay, you create a bunch of 2/2 zombies. I mean, all right, that's all right, I guess. It's not great. I don't know. It's not overwhelming in a commander game, I don't think. So I didn't fear it, but a lot of other people did. I've seen people actually go, oh, Sadisi, I don't want to play, because they just thought it was too powerful of a deck. It was a really powerful deck in the format for a while, completely fallen off. Obviously, Muldrotha quickly dethroned Sadisi as the top Sultai commander. Yarhawk, I mean, if you just look at the Sultai commanders now, Zaxara, obviously super popular, Kadena, super popular. All of those are ahead of Sadisi. She is number 6 just in Sultai colors. Again, used to be top 10. Now she's ranked 66. I never see Sadisi decks. Again, I've probably seen 1 in the past year. And again, the reason I put her so high on the list is because she was in a very popular color combination, right? Sultai is a very popular color combination, and she was the most popular Sultai commander for a long time, for years, and just has completely fallen off. Again, probably because she's been buried by these Muldrotha and Yarok. And that's quite the competition there, right? And coming in at number 1 is pretty much every 5-color commander that used to get played. And I've talked about 5-color commanders a lot. Obviously, Golos is the number 1 commander in the entire format. It really has moved in that direction of playing more colors. So 5-color commanders have become really popular. You got Kenrith, you got Sisay, some of the most popular commanders in the entire format. It used to be if you weren't playing a sliver deck, then you either had to play Child of Allora or Chromat or a Tog, something like that. Those were your only options for 5-color commanders, right? If you wanted to make a shrine deck, or if you wanted to make some sort of 5-color deck, you had to just choose a commander that had literally nothing to do with your deck just because you wanted the 5 colors, right? So you saw Chromat and a Tog a lot. You saw Child of Allora more for a lands deck. And then they just started printing 5-color commanders like crazy. And because there's so many fantastic 5-color commanders, right? You look at the 5-color commanders, the top 8 have all been printed in like the last 2 years, right? So there's so many options now for 5-color commanders that there's no reason to play those other ones. So they've completely disappeared, right? Again, Chromat only 269 decks on EDHREC, ATOG 190. Again, I used to see these commanders, not a ton, but they used to be the go-to. If you wanted to make a 5-color deck, that's what you would use because there was nothing else, right? So they really have completely disappeared from the format. So that is it for today. That is 10 commanders that I just don't see anymore. And I think we all know why, right? But that is it. And thanks for tuning in.